Good evening, everyone. My name is Guy Trasso. I'm President and CEO of the Bellingham Regional Chamber of Commerce. And this evening, I am going to be your moderator. And so a little bit of a ground rules or expectations before we get going is I often like to ensure that all of you as the audience are aware of what this is and what this is not. And so this is a candidate forum. This is the candidates talking to you versus a debate is where they start arguing with each other. And so we don't want to do that. And so we're going to have this lean in to a forum structure. So hopefully they're answering some of your questions here tonight. So with regarding the format, I'm going to need my glasses. We're going to start with opening statements in which they get 2 minutes apiece. And then we will go through a list of questions that have been chosen in advance. And we will rotate through. So not everybody gets to start at the same time, right? So Ken's not going to be starting each time. We're going to pass it, and I will help along the way. And then we're going to get to questions from the audience. So if you have burning questions that you want to know, I believe there are note cards up front. And we will call for those towards the end of the evening. So, with that, I don't think you're up here to listen to me. So, let's get going. Mission the what? Oh, of course. Yes. So, no demonstrations. So, please hold your applause and boos. We don't want to hear either of them. And then you can yell or scream as loud as you want at the end. Or when you get home. I don't know. So, making sure the one I printed out was kind of small of the rules. Okay, so again, in far as the opening statements, we're going to start with Ken, and then go to Carly, and then go to Mike. So in that order, and then the next question, Carly, you will start. So opening statements, you have 2 minutes apiece. When it comes to the response to the questions, you have 1 minute. So with that, I would invite Ken to prepare your opening statement.
So for those of you that know me, you know that I can't say anything in 2 minutes. So I'll start with that. But I'll give you a little bit of background and let you know who I am and what I'm about. I have been a business owner for most of my adult career, starting almost 40 years ago. I'm in my fourth business at the moment. I own a cleanup company that does soil remediation for contaminated soil. Our biggest customers are the big oil companies. We have a big project in the Northwest Territories for Shell. We're currently working on a project for DuPont, and on the 20th, we start a project on Whidbey Island Naval Air Station to take a look at PFAS contamination that's on that site. So I know what it's like to run a business. I know what it's like to have employees. I know what it's like to get a big job done and put a lot of pieces together, because 90% of what I do is logistics. But the most important part of my life is not that. I do have an incredible wife. I have 2 daughters, who then blessed me with 2 granddaughters. And we were searching for the elusive Y chromosome. We finally found it with grandson number 3. And that's where my wife is today, down taking care of grandbaby number 3, which is a grandson. My son-in-law on the northern side for my youngest daughter is a policeman in Everett. My daughter's husband is a worship pastor down in Olympia. So we've been here for almost 35 years, my wife and I, and loved raising our kids here. It's a great place to raise a family. I'm running because there's a lot of stuff that's been left undone. And I was originally going to run for 2 terms. What does that mean? But we've got a lot of things unfinished. We just replaced or are looking to replace the executive director. That needs to be finished. We have a shipping that needs to be brought online. A lot needs to be finished, and that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Ken.
Hi, friends and neighbors. My name's Carly James. I am running for Port Commissioner because of this moment in time. My husband and I own a business here in town. We've been doing it for 21 years. I have a very busy and fulfilling life. But I felt compelled to step up because of the challenges that we're facing right now and because of the lack of voices like mine on the commission currently and historically. So when we're talking about selecting a new executive director, when we're talking about the Harcourt settlement agreement and going back to square one with the Bellingham waterfront redevelopment, when we're talking about possibly expanding the Port Commission to 5 seats, I want to have a port that has voices like mine represented on the commission, and that's why I'm doing this. This is the 5-month anniversary of filing date. So I'm 5 months in. It's also John Lennon's birthday. So happy birthday, John. War is over if you want it. Let's see, a little bit more about me and my business. I'm an accountant. I'm an artist. I'm a musician. I am a good listener. I am a genuine, nice person. And this month, my husband and I celebrated 21 years of marriage and of business. We've made it through by being adaptable, persistent, and community-minded. And these are the values that I bring to the Port Commission. I've spent nearly half my life helping to build a vibrant, accessible downtown culture. And I want to keep doing that on the commission.
Is my timer started, Mike? Okay. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. I just want to start out with a thing I've learned over the last 8 years with being part of the port, and that is working waterfronts don't happen by accident. They might have happened by accident in 1925, but in 2025, they take advocacy, they take work, they take elected officials who believe in that mission, and they take a fantastic staff. They also take great advocacy groups like are here. So I want to thank the Working Waterfront for their work. The work that you do is central to our mission at the Port of Bellingham. I also have to apologize. I have to leave early today. I have a daughter who is turning 13 today. And you only turn 13 once. And so I have to leave and go be part of birthday celebration. So I apologize. I see a lot of faces I know here. If I don't know you, please do me the favor of dropping me a line. I just wanted to real quick identify an important issue that's coming up on our ballot that we have some disagreement with. And I'll tell you, I believe there's broad support in the community for moving to 5 commissioners, but I do want to recognize that core important groups to our mission at the port and the mission of the Working Waterfront have questions as well. That's the ILWU members and some members of the Walking Commercial Fishing Association. I want to just recognize, I hear you, I understand some of your concerns, and I do think that this will be an opportunity for growth. One of the concerns I've heard is that it's going to be hard to find candidates that are going to uphold those values on the commission. I think that's a net possible gain for you because you are going to find candidates and you are going to have greater representation of your values on the commission. I also want to encourage you to start looking for those candidates soon because we want them to be quality, and I do want that to be part of that conversation going forward. So just know that you're heard, know that I care, and I appreciate giving me an extra minute that I'm stealing from my non-opponent.
Like 12 seconds. Hang it up there. All right. So now our first question, and again, confirming with the timer, 1 minute per candidate. And we will start with Carly. And in your time will start after I finish the question. The Port of Bellingham has a large, capable, professional staff with substantial research capabilities. Who should determine the port's priorities, the staff or the 3 commissioners? What factors might cause you to vote against a recommendation from port staff?
So, staff bring the technical understanding and operational knowledge, but the commissioners bring the public mandate. So, commissioners need to be setting the priorities. And I will vote against recommendations that do not serve the public interest, that do not reflect our shared values, or do not align with our long term vision.
So, same question, Michael.
You know, we really rely exceptionally heavily on our staff to get anything done. One thing I've also learned being a commissioner is we don't do anything. And we can't do anything really. We're very reliant on those day-to-day staff members to do that work for us. And so I work really hard to have positive connections with our staff team so they understand where I'm coming from, that they understand my thought process and how I'm trying to be a conduit for values and ideas and needs I hear in the community. Sometimes that means our staff needs to be redirected, and that's what we're here for. Fortunately, we have a fantastic team of 120 or so employees at the Port of Bellingham who do fantastic work for this community, and I'm really proud to be able to work with.
All right.
Yeah, this is a one of the reasons that I start most of my interviews with, I wish I knew then what I know now. Quite frankly, it's the Port Commission's job to set policy. One of the things that we have not done well is talk together as commissioners to establish what our priorities are. That has changed with the change in executive director. The executive director used to essentially establish what the priorities for the port were. But this last year, we've seen a dramatic shift in commissioners coming together and talking together to establish a common framework to move forward. And that will show itself out, for example, this year in our budget. We sat down and said, what are our top 3 priorities? And let's come to terms on what those are. Then we direct the staff, and then the staff is there to implement what the direction of the Port Commission is. That's a functional Port Commission, where the commission sets the direction, sets the policy, sets the tone, and establishes the staff to go work in that direction.
All right. Thank you, 3. Little bit of a reminder, please use the microphone, not only for those in the audience, but also for those later listening. And we'll go on to the next question. And Michael, you will be the first one answering. The port operates marinas in Bellingham and Blaine. How are our rates compared to other ports? What needs do our marinas have for repair and maintenance? And how do we balance their use between commercial and recreational?
It's a big question for a minute. We have really fantastic resources in our harbors and marinas. They serve a huge role in our community and are important for our countywide economic development. Marinas are also really freaking expensive to run. They're hard to maintain, they're expensive to dredge, and they need constant repair. That means we have to have rates that are concurrent with those needs. Our moorage rates are a collaboration between us and the Marine Advisory Committee to provide us recommendations on where those rates should be. Also looking at where we fit statewide. We're in kind of the bottom third of the moorage rates statewide, and I think we have facilities that are in the top third. We also have demand that is above the top third. Our marinas are 100% full. We want moorage rates to encourage productive use of our harbors, boats that are here and being worked on, and that people are using.
All right. Ken, same question.
By the way, she was right. She's an incredible human being. So if you haven't had a chance to meet Carly, just take a moment to do so. Marinas and our harbors have been neglected over the last 40 years to such an extent that the makeup work is going to take decades and multi-million-dollar investments by the port to bring back to fruition. We have been stalled by tribal litigation or tribal challenges in getting just basic repairs done to the infrastructure that we have. getting through that morass has been the bulk of Michael and my term. Just being able to get to work on the waterfront that we need to work on. Marina rates need to be a little bit more supply and demand oriented, and I intend to take a look at, because I'm a capitalist at my core, I think supply and demand works. And I also think that we need to make sure that we don't price out the most emerging industry we have on the waterfront, and that's our fishermen and our commercial tenants.
Carly, same question.
Regarding our rates, I have had the opportunity to reach out to commercial and recreational users of our marinas, and this is what I've heard. Appropriate, competitive, considerably better than average, especially for active commercial fishing vessels. So I see the port working hard to support our fishing fleet, and I recognize that success. As far as repair and maintenance, our marinas need the same repair and maintenance that every marina needs. And like Michael said, these are harsh and challenging environments to maintain. When I talk to these same folks, what keeps coming up over and over is deferred maintenance. So we need to address outdated and inadequate infrastructure. We need our marinas to be accessible to everybody, commercial and recreational users. They're both essential.
All right. Ken, you will start. Okay. So we're switching gears and going into more port development oriented questions for a couple of questions. So question 3, the Arid Settling Basin was once planned as a luxury marina. Now we have a plan to develop the land for more maritime trade businesses. What is your vision for the ASB? What does it need, and what needs do you see it filling?
So this is at the core of why I'm here for the port. I'm a firm believer that the way to increase the standard of living is to create work. And I believe the ASB needs to be just that. The current plan to bring it back into full operation, to clean up half, fold it up on the top, and create an entirely different industrial area is what we need. One of the things that is a pet peeve of mine is the subsidizing of housing, when we can actually be working towards creating working wage jobs and working wage careers on our waterfront, which is our mandate. That's our the mandate of the port, is to create work. So I don't see that ASB pond or any of the other related areas being anything other than work related forward.
Same question. And if you need me to reread a question at any point during the forum, let me know.
I just need to know who goes next.
Carly.
Okay, thank you. So I think it's the aerated stabilization basin, what we're talking about. And as you said in the question, we do have a plan for the ASB. It includes completing environmental cleanups, habitat enhancements, creating a designated marine trades area, and improved public access. And I support all of those plans. We need more space for medium and large commercial vessels. That's where we can put that capacity. We need more shoreside support. That's where we can put that support. I want to make that happen. As the new guy here, I've had to, I don't have the experience and the history that these two have. So I'm having to do the research. And one thing that I can tell you is that we see these same questions come up every election cycle. So what I want to do when I'm port commissioner is make sure these projects are completed so that in 4 years from now, we have a whole new range of questions and projects to accomplish together.
I'll just be honest, the ASB redevelopment is one of the most exciting things we're going to be doing. I mean, I get pretty excited about the millions of dollars we're pumping into our shipping terminal, the millions of dollars we're pumping into Blaine Harbor. But the ASB Lagoon is a very rare opportunity to create new dedicated marine trades land. And that dedicated workspace of 14 acres plus a heavy haul out that is publicly owned and managed is something our harbor has been missing. We have no publicly owned heavy haul out that can really bring large ships. We're thinking, I want ships that can, get your boat out of the water, so that we can have those ships worked on here in our community instead of watching them go to our frenemies in Anacortes. So really exciting opportunity. It's got a huge environmental cleanup. It's, again, ridiculously expensive, but is going to have a really significant payout for our community.
Okay, thank you. So question number 4, we're going to start with Carly. The Port of Bellingham shipping terminal has been idle for years. Now the terminal is ramping up activity, and neighborhoods are starting to notice they live in an active working area. What is the vision for the terminal operations? What kinds of businesses and cargoes do you hope to see use it? And what ideas do you have to help educate the public on the work that happens there?
With the shipping terminal, the port sees a great opportunity there. And like Michael said, he's really excited about the investments that we're making. What we've seen at the port terminal is some missteps with ABC Recycling and specifically not bringing the community on board. So I am coming at this very optimistically that we can have it all. We can create good jobs at our shipping terminal. We can bring in commodities that make sense for our community and that align with our values. We can do this in a way that we're cleaning up our bay and protecting our marine ecosystems out there. We can do it safely for our neighbors, keeping them informed, letting them know what's going on. But that's going to mean more outreach, more communication, and making sure that community members know that they're safe and that their input is heard and being responded to.
Okay, Michael, same question.
I love what was just said there. All that is our vision of having that shipping terminal meet a kind of multiplicity of needs and opportunities here in the community. And what we're doing is we're investing in that resource like has not been done in the past. We've spent about $55 million of investment to upgrade, strengthen, and dredge the facility. We have a nearly $20 million federal grant to reconnect rail to that facility for the first time in 20 years. Those are going to be opportunities for that facility to do more of the things that we want it to do for bringing in revenue, jobs, and opportunities. We also know that we have to do a good job of being a good neighbor. And our team has instituted learning since the ABC situation with how we review cargo and how we communicate those cargo to the community so we are more aligned with those community values.
All right, Ken, same question.
Yeah, so getting that back up to speed has been the number one priority, but I think one of the biggest shocks that we came up against is just the sheer cost of trying to do everything. If the world were our oyster, we could do everything. And all of the aspirations that are enumerated here would be lovely. But we have a budget. We have not raised the taxes of the taxpayer at the port. We are not gonna, and we're gonna work within our means so that we don't have to raise your property taxes. Money has not been available for a lot of the things that we wanted. My biggest complaint, and I say it just about every chance I get, is the state of Washington has swept all of our MATCA funds for the last 2 years. They swept $50 million last year. They swept $70 million this year. Can you imagine the amount of cleanup we could accomplish and how much further along we would be if the state would leave the cleanup funds that they designated for these areas in place so we could use them? As far as the neighbors, we are going to work on that waterfront. We are going to do a better job of communicating. And at some level, we're going to make sure that we have the right commodities. And there is a lot of commodities that I don't have.
Yeah. All right. So next question, we're going to start with Mike. We have a commercial fishing fleet in Whatcom that is a large contributor to the local economy. What challenges do commercial fishermen in Whatcom face? What role and responsibility do you see them having with the port? And what could or what could we do to further support them?
It's a challenging time to be a commercial fisherman. It's a challenging time to be most small businesses right now. Commercial fishing has a couple key challenges that we try and address here at the port by having good facilities, good rates for our moorage, and being a home harbor for significant both commercial, tribal, and non-tribal fishing fleets. We're proud to be the home port for the nation's largest tribal commercial fishing fleet, that of the Lummi Nation. What are some of those challenges and what are we doing? We just had a great presentation on Tuesday from Sierra and the Working Waterfront and their programs to build up marine trades capacity in our community by preparing young people for jobs in the marine trades. We've all got to be investing in that pipeline of employment, because one of the largest challenges for these industries that work in our harbors is finding skilled employees who are able to work in that marine trades environment.
Ken, same question.
I think Michael just nailed it. If you only knew how limited the supply of trained workers is on our port, it would astound you. And the one thing holding back our businesses and holding back not only our commercial fishing fleet, but every business on the port is the availability of trained professionals. The port is dedicated, and I am dedicated, to making sure that we have classrooms available, that we have apprenticeships available, that we expand that, because the one choke point that we have right now is really want to make sure you understand the fishing industry is coming this way. The gentrification down south, the gentrification in Seattle, Tacoma, down the coast is bringing the fishing industry to Bellingham. We have an obligation for it with proper cold storage facilities, with proper technologies. We brought in the Hannah. We gave it a place to birth. We gave the Hannah a tremendous thing, and it's done a tremendous amount of PR work for.
I thought I would take this opportunity to be a little bit vulnerable and say that when I started this campaign, I had a pretty narrow perspective of what our waterfront was. I moved my business down to the Granary because I wanted to be part of the new downtown. I just like the water. I like looking at it. I like being near it. What I've learned being down there and on this campaign is that it means so much to so many different people. Our Lummi neighbors look out at the same water and see their ancestors. Fishers and tradespeople look out and see their livelihood. So when we talk about needing to create opportunities for more workers, that work comes in creating a waterfront culture that we all understand, that we can all access. That's the way that we can support your community.
All right. Okay, I'm back on. We had a little mic swap. Okay, so next up, we're going to start with Ken. And so now moving into cleanups and redevelopment-oriented questions. So Hamilton has vacated their lease at the Fairhaven shipyard, and cleanup can be done on the site. What is your long-term vision for the site once cleanup is complete? And what business or opportunity do you see in the space?
This is a perfect example of where we need to resist gentrification. That is an area meant for work, and it can be a number of different job creation opportunities on that site. One of the ones that I like the most is I like the idea of bringing more tourism into our area, because it's a it's an exponential growth pattern for us. We bring in tourism and we bring in any kind of tour capacity. We're going to bring business to our airport. We're actually going to enhance our airport as well as that area. That area needs to be a working waterfront area. We need to rehabilitate it so that it is such. If we have job creation capabilities, we have a boat manufacturer that's in need of expansion right now. We should be building them a building so that they can have all the space they need to create the work they have planned. Our job is to make that area hospitable for exactly what it was meant to be, and that is a boat building area.
All right. Carly, same question.
Well, I know the answer to this question. It is not a real estate opportunity. It is not going to be condos. This is critical infrastructure for our maritime future. It's one of the few mid-sized shipyards left on the entire West Coast. It's not as massive as Seattle or San Diego, but exactly the right scale to serve the Pacific Northwest commercial fishing fleet. So the vision is simple. We clean it up, we maintain it, we modernize it, and we make it ready for the next century of marine trades and ship repair.
Good answers. Yeah, it's always been in my mind that what we want to get back to there is that 75 plus skilled workers that were working at the shipyard when it was run by Puglia. And I think that's the capacity it has, and that's the opportunity we're trying to create. We're in the process of environmental cleanup right now, and that gives us a chance to really envision how the site moves forward and be a little bit more choosy, I think, in evaluating those proposals that come to us for those next uses. One thing we continually find, I think, is that we get more of the vision we're looking for when we manage properties. And so the port having a substantial role in managing that property into the future, the type of work that's happening, the type of tenants that are using that space collaboratively, is probably where I'm looking to go, similar to what we're also trying to put up in Blaine as well.
Okay, so question 7, and again, starting with Carly. Harcourt's right to develop has now been settled, and the waterfront is open to visioning once more in the pump track area. What is your vision for that area, given an ideal world with adequate funding? How would you blend the industrial, commercial, residential, and recreational opportunities that the site has or is near, and how would you open pedestrian access to the area?
So like I said at the beginning, this issue is really what drew me into this race because I want to be a part of this conversation. I don't want to talk about an ideal world with adequate funding because that doesn't exist and that's not the reality that we live in. One thing that everyone needs to keep in mind with this is that with the Harcourt settlement, we lost our master developer, but we did not lose our master development plan. That still exists. So when I talk to folks at the port about what the plan is for the waterfront, this is what they refer to. And I have a visual aid. Not sure you can see it. This is the sketch for where we're at with our waterfront redevelopment. That's where I'm at with the waterfront redevelopment, and I'm doing this so that our voices can be back on the panel of deciding where we go from here.
All right. For those maybe listening later, Carly crumpled up the paper.
I did. I have a fresh sheet, though, in case anyone wants to look
All
at a
right, so-
non-crumpled version.
That's for the next forum. Okay. So, Michael, same question.
Okay. The waterfront redevelopment continues to be somewhere where the community just loves to gather. The events, the utilization of the portal, the whole area around trackside, that have become kind of iconic are ones that we just keep having and making sure those community assets are here and into the future and built upon. And I think that's what we're going to continue to see. We're going to see mixed use development at that waterfront district, the old GP site. And some of my interests are trying to preserve those parts of the district that have become kind of like our community center, our downtown plaza, our public park, where we hold the circus and the tune-up and the fire and story and the mural festival, all these great events that the community really loves. I think we can continue to do that. It's going to be in proximity to our shipping terminal, which has a different directive for its mission and future. And I'm sorry, but that's the last question I have ability to stay for today. Thank you all for having me. I'm sorry I can't get to all the questions today, but please have a chance.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Michael.
So I believe if my math is correct, Ken, you still have yet to answer that, correct? Perfect. So you're up.
So when I ran for the port, the waterfront development was established. I want to remind everybody, because it seems to be a point people forget, there isn't a single person on this commission that voted for the Harcourt Agreement. That was done by a previous port commission. Thank you for raising your hand. And we spent the next 7 years trying to get out of it. And I say that about a number of things that have gone on around the port. There are a lot of agreements that were long-term agreements that were established 50, 40, 30 years ago that needed a second look. So the last 7 years have been just kind of a recalibration. It has been clear that Harcourt was not going to be there, but the agreement that was signed was not one that we could get out of without going through a lengthy litigation process. We had no ability to work on that waterfront until the settlement came in May of this year. Now we get to reimagine that waterfront, and like Carly, that old plan needs to go away, and we need to start over with a new vision, a new plan, new communication with the city.
Okay, I had my order all set, and then Michael left, so I'm like, oh gosh, who's next? Okay, so we're just gonna flip-flop between the two. So since Ken was the last to answer, Carly, you can answer this one first. Blaine's commercial wharf is planned for cleanup and repair, and currently Blaine Marina has no public fuel dock to service tenants. How do you envision Blaine's industry developing after the cleanup, and would you advocate for a public fuel dock to service the tenants there?
Yes, my answer is yes. There should be a fuel dock there. And my vision is that we have current, modern, tended to infrastructure, a cleaned up bay, and the ability to service the boats that want to come to Bellingham and Blaine. So yes to fuel.
All right. Ken, next question, or same question.
Are you ready for it?
No, but go for it.
Same answer. Right now, the entire fishing community up there is being held hostage by Semiahmoo for their fuel, which kind of issues fuel on a whim. We absolutely need all of the resources we can possibly have. I want to say that we have got scheduled about $16 million worth of infrastructure replacement just in 2 projects on the Blaine Marina. Just for next year alone. It's one of the 3 priorities that we established. Ton of money. It's also going to take a ton of money to get a fuel dock in there to get it permitted. We are going to need to get approval from the tribe. We are going to need to be able to have all of the environmental protections and assets and permitting done. So we want to make sure that we go through all those steps. So it may not be quick, but it will be in progress.
All right, now comes the fun part where I can see who has even worse handwriting than I do. I will do my best. My apologies for getting it wrong, because I will do so. So we're going to start with Ken, since you finished last. We're going to give you a chance to start, and then Carly can start on the next question.
You know the rules?
Yeah, I'm making them up as I go. Correct. So we're starting with you. What can we do to attract more flights to BLI?
I said it earlier. The better tourist we can make it. So first of all, we got to stop relying on Canada. Our airport has been ebb and flow because of Canada. We're successful if we rely on Canada. We have got to create internal demand. It's going to happen through tourism. It's going to happen through what we have now as one of the most incredible biking communities. We've got incredible scenery and wands. We've got the ability to in from all over. We can bring them in from Alaska and do tours. But the goal is to try to create demand internally so we're not reliant on Canada for our airport traffic. For those of you who don't know, the only place the airport makes money is in parking. We don't make it in gate fees. We don't make it anywhere else. It's the number of cars that are in that parking lot that create revenue for the port. We've got to get more people flying through our airport coming from other destinations to create those routes. We don't do that. We don't get routes to the East Coast.
That makes sense to me. I know that in my research of the work that the port does and looking at the history of the airport, we've had a hard time maintaining airlines and routes. So I'm excited to continue looking into why that's happening. Those of you that know me and know my store, what I do is I make space a space that you want to be. And when I look at the Bellingham International Airport, I look at a real opportunity to not just grow our economy through flights, but to grow our economy through promoting our story and who we are. There is absolutely no reason why our airport, when you're inside of it, you could really be at any airport in any town and any place in the world. We have an opportunity to showcase what makes Whatcom County amazing. We have the opportunity to plant seeds to business owners and investors who are passing through that airport. So those are the projects that I'm excited to look into.
All right. So we're going to start with Carly this time. So Ken mentioned maintenance efforts being stalled by tribal consultation. What is the port's plan to work through these processes? Is there any thought to bring tribes in sooner in the planning process to try to get their blessing or perhaps create a working group?
Well, I can't speak to what the plans of the port are because I'm not on the port yet, but I can tell you that I've been endorsed by the Nooksack tribe and by the Lummi tribe. And in my conversations with them, they just want more involvement, more conversation, and to be treated like true partners. The feedback that I heard is that, checking in, getting their sign off, it's more like checking a box, and we're just fulfilling that agreement, and we're not putting work into actually nurturing and maintaining and building a strong partnership. So this is coming back to me as a listener, as a collaborator, as somebody deeply embedded in our community. That's the work and the value that I feel like I can bring to the commission to strengthen those partnerships so that we can work together and make things happen sooner.
I know it's my turn. And so for those of you who don't know, it was this commission that established a landmark agreement that allowed us to begin repairing just infrastructure on our dock. We had 680 permits being challenged by the tribe. It took us months, 2 years, to just negotiate an agreement with the tribe to allow us to go ahead and just do routine maintenance, repairing docks, repairing pilings. That was a long collaborative process, and we met often. Our relationship with the tribe has never been better. We can now repair existing infrastructure. The next agreement, which is on the apex, is to allow us to add additional infrastructure. The first one, we negotiated an agreement. Their fishermen get free moorage in perpetuity. That broke the logjam. We can now repair our facilities. The next one will be even better, and it's in the future, and we are constantly meeting with them. We have a liaison that we are hiring to be a in-office staff person that will be a liaison between the port and the tribe, so they have direct access to port activities. That's another one of the changes that we've made in the last year.
Okay. So now going to some of the online questions. And so Ken, we'll start with you. What are your thoughts on walk-on passenger ferries?
I love them. So you're asking me what we would do to create one? I guess, is that the question?
Interpret as you will.
Walk-on ferries are a tremendous asset. We need to make them commercially available. And again, I think this goes back to the tourism question. We need to bring more people in. We've got to have the ability to put, butts in seats, as it were, so that we fill those things to capacity. We are going to make way for them. We're going to have a place for them. We're going to encourage them, and we're going to market them. So it is certainly on our radar screen, and I love them.
also pro foot ferry. And my understanding of having these conversations is that getting a state-run ferry up here is less likely, and that what we need to do is look for private ferries to come and do that work. And so that's where the port can step in and do some recruiting, create the environment where someone like that could step in and provide that service, because that would be a tremendous community amenity and bringing folks to Whatcom County.
Okay. So next question, we'll start with you, Carly. What is one positive thing that came out of the ABC recycling situation?
I think the most positive thing is that it reminds us what happens when we come together for a shared goal to make our voices heard. And like these nice guys said at the beginning here, the reason we're having this event right now is because I decided to step up and run. And it's really on the community that Michael is running unopposed, that nobody stepped up in his district to run. So the community-driven vision that I'm talking about, us creating together, that doesn't stop if I have the honor to be elected. Everybody has to keep showing up. Everybody has to keep doing the work, because unless we work together, our voices can very easily get lost.
Yeah, I'm always been a glass half full kind of guy. So I see the positives that come out of things like that. As horrific as the experience was, and the number of mornings I woke up at 2:00 in the morning, thinking about it. But I will tell you, first of all, it put Bellingham on the map. People now understand that we have a shipping terminal. The second thing it did was it made me take a very hard look at what the internal operations were at the port and how it could possibly get missed that we let our business development head override our environmental head. The drive to put business on the property was ill-advised and not well sought out. So understanding what silos the port had been operating in and how communication wasn't working was a major benefit, and it brought that to light. So clearly, I am pleased that we at least brought that to light. I will also say public attention on the port has never been better. Community engagement has never been better. We're getting treatment from both papers at the moment that is fabulous, that keeps their eye on us, and it heightens the community's awareness of us.
Okay. So going on to the next question from the room. Ken, we'll start with you. How does or should the port work with private commercial waterfront landowners to ensure waterfront properties stay working waterfront oriented and not become all condos or breweries?
So we have had a history, and this is something that I have been advocating for a long period of time. As a port, we have certain properties that are what I consider to be completely developed, and that means that they have reached their ultimate capacity, and they no longer need to be brought along for job creation. We need to start looking at opportunities along our waterfront that have zero jobs, that have not been creating assets for the port or creating work for the port, and start to trade assets where we've got 100% employment, 100% occupancy, 100% real estate development. Let's bring those out and find those properties and keep them in working waterfront. That is the sole purpose of the port. You can go to Kansas City, you're not going to be able to get a ship in there. It's the only thing we can do here. We have waterfront. We have an economic opportunity. We have an engine here that they don't have in the center of the country that we need to maximize, and we need to make sure that property, if it can be turned back into port property, should be.
Just fresh new perspective. It sounds like the way that we make that happen is by making sure that the port maintains the land that it currently has on the shoreline. That's really the only way that we can protect it for water dependent use. And, I'm here as a non-water dependent business owner occupying space on our waterfront. I have a new appreciation for this concept since I started running for the port. And, again, I'm just coming back to my optimistic view, which is that if we work together, we can have it all. And I think that there's a space for businesses like mine to be here on the waterfront as a bridge and a window into the work that is happening on our waterfront. People need to see the work being done. They need to be invited in safely. Once we create that understanding, that's how we have advocacy in our community.
Okay, so Carly, you can start with this, I guess, the final question. Looking at Dan. Yep, final question from the audience. And I'm going to do my best. I don't myself work on the waterfront, but my husband does. And I volunteer at the Community Boating Center. Thank you for volunteering. In my volunteer capacity, I often observe traffic at the Fairhaven Public Boat Ramp. And it can feel like recreational users without access to the gated marina don't have fair access to the water. Are there ways you envision increasing waterfront access for Bellingham residents more broadly while still supporting working waterfront?
Absolutely. And I think the thing that comes to mind is down at the Whatcom Waterway having visitor moorage. This is something that we've had historically, even with an active shipping terminal when it was in use. And I'd like to see that infrastructure put back in. That would be tremendous for connecting our waterfront to our downtown in Fairhaven. There's also opportunities coming up with Salish Landing Park and the public spaces that are going to be built as we finish the cleanup. I feel like there's room for another community boating center at that location. So yeah, I would love to see more opportunities for the public to have access. And as Port Commissioner, I would certainly advocate for that.
Yeah, it's just difficult. We've got limited space, but I understand your question and I understand the concern. We really do want to make sure access is available. The second community boating launching place on Zawanish that has been in works for forever. And my Rotary group has picked that up as a cause celeb, as it were. And we're raising money to make sure that that happens on a private basis. So we're here to help in any way we can. And sometimes it takes the private sector to come in and help us out with some of that stuff because we are limited with our budget on the port. But this is one of those areas where if we're going to get young people interested in water dependent uses, they need to have access to the water. They need to be on the water. They need to feel the excitement of the water. They need to understand that there are careers on the water, and there is no better gateway than our community boating center. And we need to make sure we've got access to that, and it's easy access.
Okay, so we are to 2-minute closing statements. And I think, Ken, you started the opening statements, right? Okay, so we'll flip.
I think what I'm going to do is finish my opening statement that Mike cut me off of. Okay, thanks, buddy. Again, my name is Carly James. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. Thank you to Dan, to the Working Waterfront Coalition. Thanks to Mike. Thanks to Guy. Thank you for Commissioner Bell for being here and Commissioner Shepard for being here earlier. I have spent nearly half of my life helping to build a vibrant and accessible downtown culture. I am deeply rooted in this place with an authentic understanding of who we are and what makes us special. Whatcom County deserves a port that protects what makes us us. The small businesses and artists, the fishers and longshoremen, the families who've built their lives on the water, the Salish Sea that connects us all. I'm stepping up to run because I'm going to bring that voice to the commission and make sure that when we're talking about economic development growth, that we do it in a way that doesn't erase who we are. Because if we don't protect it, we will lose it. Thank you.
All right, Ken, 2 minutes.
Yeah, I'm going to close by saying this port is going to be well served no matter who wins. I couldn't agree with that statement anymore. But I do want to say that there are a couple things that did not get asked here. and I just want to hit on them. We have done an industrial land study that found us completely void of new industrial ground for the county. If we're going to create work, we need to do it at our airport. Our airport has been neglected from an industrial land standpoint. Everybody focuses on the number of flights that are in there, but take a look at that industrial park. It's been neglected. One of the things that set me off early on was the idea that we might take that industrial ground and turn it into a pickleball court. No. Right? You want to know when we override staff? That's one of those times. Quite frankly, that has been underutilized, underdeveloped, underplanned, undervisualized. We have industrial ground that we need. When we talk about buying public property, we need to start buying properties like we did at the farm. I don't know if you know about the farm that was out, the old Boxberry farm. We bought that to keep it in ag, to keep it working, because it was for sale. It could have easily gone back into housing. Port made a decision. We wanted this to be a working area. We wanted to keep it in agriculture. Same thing needs to happen with private properties along the water. We need to make sure that they stay in industry, that they stay working. It is the only solution we have. For those of you that know me, you know that I believe that a good job and a good work ethic and a good working environment creates the kind of community that saves cultures from addiction. It saves people from lives that are meaningless. And so work means something very dear to me. And it is that type of activity that I want to see. We bring our young people up to know what work looks like, to be trained in work, to have a daily activity, to feel the accomplishment of a job. We're going to have less addiction, we're going to have less homelessness, and we're going to have a better society.
All right. Well, there we have it. Well, thank you both for being here along with Michael. What's interesting is, as I mentioned earlier, from the Chamber of Commerce, and I have this photo on our wall in my office, and it's my predecessor's predecessor, maybe, I don't know, 8 times back, pointing to this whitewashed wall that says work for adequate port development. And it's interesting that that photo was 1964. Like, we're still doing this, and we get to do this because it's important. And so I want to thank Dan and the staff team at the Working Waterfront Coalition. I want to thank the team at KMRE. Thank you. And can we have, like, the volunteers, I guess probably the board of directors from the Working Waterfront Coalition, just raise your hand and stand up really quick? Round of applause for putting this on. Thank you. And of course, last but not least, thank you to our candidates for showing up. They're asked to do this a lot, and it takes a lot of time, and thanks for the courage to do it.
And I just want to add real quick, for all of you that submitted questions both here and online, if your question did not get answered, I do intend to compile those into a document and send them to these guys. And if they get a chance to answer them, we will certainly email that out to the list that we have. So if you did not register or did not register in email, leave your email, because left their email tonight will go on that distribution list if or when we get answers back on those unanswered questions.